Hello and welcome into the Nexus MMA podcast. I'm Andre Kachapurian with Manu Akopian, combat sports journalist. His work has been featured in the LA Times, The Guardian, Al Jazeera, all over the place. Here he is now. Manu Akopian, how are you today? Previewing UFC 235. You excited?
Andre, I'm doing great. Good things coming third. This is the third week in a row we've relaunched this podcast. I'm doing great.
Excellent. I'm happy that you're doing great because I'm doing fantastic. You know, it's a Friday night. People are getting ready to go out. What better way to pregame a Friday night than listen to the Nexus MMA podcast? And here we are. Let's preview the UFC 235 card. The main event. Let's not waste any time. Jon Jones versus Anthony Smith. Now, this fight seems very lopsided. Vegas agrees. The fight opened up with Jones as a minus 500 favorite, and that ballooned up to minus 900. Now it's down to minus 800. Still a massive mismatch, Jones versus Smith. Jones actually has an 8-inch reach advantage over Smith. Now, obviously, he's a decorated, in the octagon, decorated career. He's had so many wins. He's beat everybody. Daniel Cormier twice. His biggest issue, of course, has been out of the octagon. My question to you, Manu, should Jones be more scared of Anthony Smith in the octagon or the drug test after the fight? Which should he be more worried about?
Good one, Andre. Well, Jon Jones, this is a stay busy fight in every sense of the word. With Jon Jones having fought one time in each of the last 5 years, I'm actually really excited for the fact that he's returning to the octagon only 2 months since the entire Gustafsson fiasco. And frankly, he has a lot of paydays to catch up on. He hasn't done himself any favors by keeping busy. So I think 2019 is really going to be a rebound year for Jon Jones. And, sadly, Smith is going to be a sacrificial lamb come Saturday because he has no business being in the octagon. And like you said, the odds reflect that as well.
I don't know if this is bad for Smith, though. I think this is if Smith goes out there and he gets knocked out in the first round or gets submitted in the first round, everyone's going to, all right, this was a big mismatch to begin with, whatever. But Smith has a lot of experience under his belt. This is his 45th fight, and his 45th professional fight. This guy's been he's been fighting for a very long time. Now, if he goes out there and takes this to the third or fourth round and has a good showing, I think that bodes well for Smith. I mean, he can win by losing in this fight. So, I don't know. Sacrificial lamb is a good term for him. I think he can really, if he puts out a good showing, I Kinta had that same situation when he fought Khabib Nurmagomedov. He took him deep, he fought him hard, and people took notice. And you can respect that. He puts on a respectable performance, but that's all we're gonna get in this main card. Is the biggest chance Smith has is to put a respectable performance against this Jon Jones character, who, by the way, we all talk about how the guy's been dominant in his career with a great record. Here's the most impressive Jon Jones stat: his 95% takedown defense. The guy does not get knocked down. He is impossible to take down, and that's against guys like DC, Gustafsson, Sonnen, a bunch of legendary fighters. And Smith isn't going to do anything in this fight.
I mean, I was trying to do some background homework on Smith, and I looked at his record. He started off 5-6 in his MMA career.
He did.
He's been all over the map. I mean, with that kind of a subpar start to his career, Andre, it gives jobbers like us hope. We have a chance in anything we want to do in life. And Smith has earned. He's definitely earned. He's definitely earned a chance. But at this point, it's going to be a quick ending. I see Jon Jones pummeling him for a couple of rounds, and I just hope Smith is not hurt beyond the point of recognition, and that Las Vegas paramedics are on standby, because it might not end too well.
Yeah, Jones again with the advantage in significant strikes and takedown defense. I mean, he's had more signature wins. We don't need to get into details in this one. We know Jones is the heavy favorite in this one. Let's move on to the next fight, the co-main event, which is the fight I'm most excited about. Tyron Woodley minus 150 favorite against Kamaru Usman plus 125. Tyron Woodley going for his fifth title defense. Of course, one of those defenses was actually a majority draw against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He then went on to beat Stephen Wonderboy Thompson before an impressive, one of the greatest defensive performances I've seen in the championship MMA UFC fight against Demian Maia. He took Maia had 21 takedown attempts in that fight, and Woodley stuffed all of them. That was at UFC 214 in Anaheim. And then after that, Woodley took some time off. He was a little hurt, came back, and silenced Darren Till. And now he has Kamaru Usman next up. What do you see him going into this fight? Do you see the end of Woodley's reign as welterweight champion?
Andre, you took the words right out of my mouth. I think this is the night where Woodley's reign ends. I don't know who's going to be more happier when that happens, the legion of UFC fans across the world or Dana White, because we all know Dana White is not fond of Woodley's performances inside the octagon. He's probably one of the most milquetoast champions the promotion and company has ever had, and frankly, he's not a marketable person. I know most definitely people are not going to be tuning in to watch him, and frankly, Usman is not the kind of guy we're going to be looking over. I'm actually picking Usman to take this one. He's trajectorying towards this opportunity, and I think he's going to take it.
Usman does have the height and reach advantage. He's more significant strikes and the grappling advantage. That being said, I'm going to take Tyron Woodley. Listen, you got to stop disrespecting him. What you just told me means that you're all about the showmanship. You don't really care about MMA fighting. You don't care about mixed martial arts. How can you not respect what Woodley's done? 2 brawls against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. The first one was a classic, at least. And then, the second one was a little boring, whatever. But that fight against Demian Maia, where he stuffed 21 takedowns, sure, aesthetically it wasn't pleasing. But stuffing 21 takedowns is no joke. That is an impressive performance by Woodley. And then he comes back from injury and silences Darren Till. Darren Till, you know how many significant strikes Darren Till had against Woodley in that championship fight? Yes.
58.
0. 0.
I know. I definitely know. It was Andre. Listen, don't take me wrong. It was a great performance. I remember watching it.
Out. He couldn't get a single hand on him. That was in 2 minutes of not 2 minutes. Nearly 2 rounds of fighting. That fight went deep into the second round, and Woodley was not touched. He dominated Till in a way that he dominated a fight. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Till had 0 significant strikes on Tyron Woodley. Woodley is very underrated. I feel like the image that, fans have of him is that, he's a boring champion. And because of that, he's only a minus 150 favorite. Come on. Sure, Usman, 7 of his last 8 wins. He landed 12 takedowns against Rafael dos Anjos. That's impressive. But again, this is one of the best takedown defense guys in the UFC in Tyron Woodley. I think it's going to be a lot more difficult for Usman to get Woodley on the mat than it was against an aging RDA. And again, 7 of Usman's last 8 wins are coming in via decision. I don't know. I trust Woodley more. Who's been in those title fights where he's been in those 5-round fights much more than Usman. I'm taking Woodley via decision.
Do you think who do you think Dana White's going to be rooting for in this one?
I agree with you in that aspect, but that doesn't mean. I think that helps Woodley. That fuels his fire. Oh, my own boss doesn't believe in me. You've worked at companies before where you felt like your own boss doesn't believe in you. What do? The fire comes out. You end up working harder. That's what's going to happen here with Woodley.
I actually go with the takedown defense, ground and pound. Nothing gets the C-suite going, the little MMA action in the break room.
You have anything else to add to this fight? Because you're speaking nonsense right now.
Well, here's what I think. Woodley is definitely an amazing fighter. He just doesn't cut it for me, and I think this is actually that kind of a fight where he has a very well likelihood of falling, and the odds reflect that as well too with odd charts.
I mean, you're not into Woodley because he's not entertaining enough, but one guy I feel like you might be into is Ben Askren, who'll be fighting his first UFC fight. That's also on the main card, leading up to the co-main and the main event. What are your thoughts on this whole situation with Ben Askren coming in from O&E? He's now he's in the UFC. That strange trade for Demetrius Johnson. What's your whole opinion on this situation as he fights Robbie Lawler?
You know, that was actually a very lopsided trade. It's like, you know, when you wake up on a Wednesday morning after a bender and you have this fantasy trade, and it's like, is this guy really serious? For the fact that the UFC landed Ben Askren, I don't think that was in favor of them. Demetrius Johnson was an amazing champion, one of the most decorated careers ever. But Askren, at the same time, he brings this element to him that makes him very intriguing, exciting. He's obviously
marketable.
Absolutely,
Definitely more marketable than Demetrius Johnson. Doesn't matter how many title defenses Demetrius Johnson had. He wasn't selling fights.
And Dana White's all about numbers. You know, the Ronda Rousey.
That's why he's not a fan of Woodley.
Yeah, the Ronda Rouseys and the John Jones. You know, the UFC has had a stretch of a lot of its brightest stars retiring, moving on to different things. Obviously, falling with losses. So he needs these kind of stars, and he's actually feeding into the fire and fueling it by being an adversary of Askren. Obviously, it's been well documented that they don't really have it with each other. They haven't actually even talked to this point. And
well, they had a little brief moment at the UFC press conference. There might have been a little sarcasm that they're both cool with each other. But briefly, before we break down this fight, Askren, for those that don't know, the casual fans out there, Askren is pretty much a grappler. He's very good on the mat. His weakness is his striking game. He admits that too. Askren another big knock on him is he is 18-0, but none of those wins against quality opponents. You could say that Douglas Lima and Andre Koreshov, they're both former Bellator welterweight champs. Wins over those guys, probably his most signature wins. But obviously now a big test against Robbie Lawler, former UFC welterweight champion. And then it's not an easy test. Lawler coming into this one as a plus 220 underdog. And I quite frankly love it. He has the experience. He's a brawler. The guy, 20 of his 28 wins via knockout. And two of his last three fights for Lawler, they were losses against Tyron Woodley and Rafael dos Anjos. Those are two guys who have or are UFC champions. And I think this is a situation where Lawler, he's going to succeed against a guy with a lot of hype in Askren. Again, I like Askren. The guy's going to have a successful UFC career. He's going to sell a lot of tickets, but this is his biggest challenge, and I'm going to take Lawler in a second-round knockout, vicious fight. I think Lawler's just going to come out there swinging his arms and just he's going to catch him, and Askren's going to fall into the mat out cold.
I'll flip the script on you, Andre. I think Askren's going to obviously control this on the mat. He's a decorated wrestling champion, as we all know, and back in his college days. And you know, when you're making an appearance like this on the grand stage, that means a lot. And I think he's been salivating and champing at the bit for this kind of an opportunity. His time has finally come. And you know, Robbie Lawler is no walkover. Yeah, he has 12 losses in his career, but he's one of the more notable figures in UFC history. We all know what he's done, but it's everyone's time, and I think it's going to be Askren's on Saturday.
Don't forget, Askren is up there in age too. He's like 33. He's not a young dude, so let's not view this guy as a prospect or something like that. He is an older guy. Of course, Lawler is 36, 37, I believe. So this isn't like a young guy versus a legend type of situation. These guys are both up there in age. I'm not saying that's a disadvantage. I'm just saying that, you know, for casual fans out there who maybe don't follow the other promotions as closely, that's Ben Askren. He's not a young guy. But yeah, so let's quickly round up a couple of the other fights on this UFC 235 card. Very stacked card from top to bottom. One of the best we've seen in recent history. I want to ask you, Manu, what fight are you looking for most on this stacked card, other than the ones that we just talked about?
Well, like you said, the preliminary fights have a nice lineup too, and you know, me being Armenian, I'm looking for Edmund Shabazian, the 21-year-old kid, 8-0. Obviously came from Dana White's Fight Night show. He was taken to deep waters in his debut a couple of months ago. Eked it out with a split decision, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he's developing. He's in there with a game opponent. He's going to be kicking off the show, and there's a little bit of a hype around him. Obviously signed to Dana White's management company. He's trained by I'm sorry, not Dana White. Ronda Rousey's management company, and he's trained by Rousey's trainer. Yeah, and I'm just looking forward to seeing what he learned out of his last fight, and that's one fight on the prelim card I'm looking forward to. How about you?
I'm looking at the prelim main event between Zabit Magomedsharipov against Jeremy Stephens. Now,
say that a few times after some
I
tequila
love
shots.
that name. I love it. Zabit Magomedsharipov is one of my favorite names in sports. That guy, he is one of the biggest up-and-comers in the UFC, 28-year-old from Dagestan, where Khabib Nurmagomedov is from. And this guy's a giant. He's fighting in the featherweight class, but he is huge. He is 6'1". He's taller than all of his opponents. And UFC 223 was one of the most memorable fights I've ever seen. It was between Kyle Bochniak and Zabit Magomedsharipov, Boston native Kyle Bochniak. Bochniak stole the show in that one. He was getting beat up in that fight, but somehow he was not knocked out. He was able to fight until the very end, crash Bochniak. But Magomedsharipov is a beast, and he showed that he could be a beast in his submission victory over Brandon Davis at UFC 228. Very talented. He won the submission of the year with that. He's just a young and up-and-coming guy. This is going to be his time to shine on the biggest card that he's been on. I feel like John Jones headlining the card. He can really feel the show here. Toughest opponent in Jeremy Stephens, who's accomplished. He's been around the game for a very long time. But I think Magomedsharipov is going to open some eyes in this one. I predict he takes either the fight of the night or the performance of the night bonus in this card, because that guy he's a fantastic watch, and he's 4 UFC fights. He's fought 4 times in the UFC. His first 2 fights, he won performance of the night. His third fight against Bochniak was fight of the night, and then his win against Brandon Davis at UFC 228 won submission of the year. So this guy puts on the show. He's fun to watch. He also looks like Abraham Lincoln. Imagine Abraham Lincoln was a UFC fighter. That's what he would look like. He looks exactly like Abraham Lincoln. Fun to watch.
Yeah, unfortunately, Honest Zabit doesn't have a good ring to it, but I definitely agree with you. He's fun to watch, and frankly, I think. Well, Honest Abe Lincoln, you know.
I know, yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I laugh. It's funny.
You know, and frankly, I think you have a little bias towards him just because of the unruly hair. You know, back in your college days, I knew you used to rock a nice style like that too.
I didn't really invest in the hair product until my mid-20s. I used to just let it ride. Zabit just tends to let it ride as well, but hey, you know, he's an up-and-coming UFC star, so he can do whatever he wants.
You know, with all this talk about hair products, it might be time to, you know, court some sponsors for our podcast. I'm talking to you, Vidal Sassoon.
Hey, you never know. You never know. Vidal Sassoon. Why that brand? Why?
Because it's head and shoulders above everyone else.
Ooh.
You know, I think that's my mic drop, Andre. Let's just call it a day.
That was fantastic. Hey, Manu, thanks again as always every week. Nation MMA podcast. We'll be back next week. Got a big card next week with Derek Lewis is back in the octagon. That's going to be fun to watch. So we'll preview that fight, and we'll talk about anything else that might happen in the UFC 235 card. Thanks again as always. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, everybody.